Greetings, my name is Pastor Iblis, and this is a video response for Trustin JC and his atheist or theist who is in denial of the greatest amount of evidence. And I want to say right off the bat, I am an atheist. However, what I am going to say may offend some atheists, but I frankly don't give a shit. The one that is in denial of the greatest amount of evidence is without a doubt the theist. The reason is simple. They are trying to ignore their own origins or downright lie about certain aspects, like the word serpent in their original sin story. They are desperate to try and insert the devil, Satan, there where he doesn't belong. As I point out in my video on the origin of evil, the word serpent in the Genesis account means the snake, a snake. It does not mean the devil. That was not a symbolic or a spiritual anything of the devil. There was no devil. The concept of evil began in the 6th century BC with Zoroastrianism. It was not around prior to that. Prior to that, the people attributed any type of famine or disease or plague to gods. It was not something a devil was doing, it was the gods. Even the Job story, the Job figure, looked at it as he had offended the God. He did not look at it as the devil was after him. It is only the Christian religion that makes the devil the one that is trying to deceive mankind. But I ask you honestly, would it deceive anyone to be trying to come at people with an attitude of, I hate you, I want to kill you, blah! Where these people that the Christians try and point to with possession and so forth, these so-called demons, all they're doing is growling, snorting, farting, thrashing around. Who would that deceive? Who would that trick? Not to mention, in the Bible, show me one place that the devil tries to deceive anyone. The only time this devil figure says at all about worshiping him is to the Jesus figure. But then the Jesus figure turns around and does the exact same thing to humanity by saying you can't. He changes the destination. Instead of it being, I'll give you the earth if you worship me, it's, I will give you heaven. You can't get into heaven unless you do this. Like, the first one was, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you can in no case enter the kingdom of heaven. Then it was, unless you are converted to being like a little child, you cannot get into the kingdom of heaven. Then it was, unless you are converted to being like a little child, then you're the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. It wasn't just a matter of getting in the damn door. It was, if you're converted like a little child, you're the greatest. Then it was, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you cannot get into the kingdom of heaven. The rules and so forth for getting into heaven were changing over and over again. Most of the New Testament was written by Paul and later combined by Constantine, taking the Christianity of Paul, which the term Christianity came from Paul. Those that were following Yeshua called themselves followers of the way, not Christians. Yeshua did not found a church. He founded what was termed a mystery school. It was Paul that changed a lot of it and invented the name Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was not his name. But all of this is in my video series on the origin of evil, where I go into detail on evil. The thing is, with the origin of people, I really want to hammer on this. It was the Sumerians that were the first real civilization that were here. They called their gods the Anunnaki. Anunnaki means those who from heaven to earth came. The Sumerians said their gods came from the stars, came from space. The Sumerians had a detailed knowledge of the solar system, which what they had written was proven true by science. as we discovered the different planets, it was, holy shit, these Sumerians were right. How did these primitives know about these planets that we are only now discovering? They knew about them because their gods told them. That having been said, who were their gods? Their gods were extraterrestrials. Point blank. I'm not going to go into all of the details on that. That could be a 10-minute blog or more in and of itself. As far as this New World Order, those that are the political leaders, and some would even try and put forward they are the hybrids of reptilians and so forth, I don't know. But they've been trying to bring about a one-world government for hundreds, if not thousands of years. The aspect of they're getting close to it now doesn't mean a whole lot of shit other than they're getting desperate. Because people are starting to wake up to what is going on, to the enslavement that is being brought around us. They are trying to demonize those people, much like the early Christian church did with anyone that had ideas or views different from the church. Those were called heretics, and what was done to them by the church is told in graphic detail in the video series on the origin of evil. However, the political leaders, they are theists. Because in order to be part of one of these secret societies, like Skull and Bones and so forth, one must be a theist. I am in the military, and I've been told point blank by other soldiers in the military, I could not be in Freemasons. Even if I would want to be, and I wouldn't. I couldn't be because I'm an atheist. You must believe in a God in order to be in their group. Point blank, that's the way it is. However, the aspect of miracles. Miracles are not evidence of a God. Point blank. The aspect of the God of the gaps, which is what a lot of Christians want to go to, is if science can't explain something, it automatically goes to God by default. That is madness. The idea that if science doesn't have every explanation, it automatically God wins by default. But it's not just any God. It's their God. It's the God of the Bible. It has to be the God of the Bible that kills over 2.3 million, that Christians want to try and warp their own Bible and ignore and cherry pick the Old Testament and ignore so much of it that to make their God out to be this all-loving being that it just flat out is not. What atheists rail against is not the Ten Commandments, which, by the way, were stolen from the Egyptians. The Book of the Dead, spelled 23. It is the brutal, sadistic nature of the God. That is what people rail against. The enslavement, the tyrannical nature of that being. Just because we don't have every single thing explained does not mean the theistic God of the Bible is real. The theists would first have to debunk all of the mountain of evidence that points to their God being an extraterrestrial. And that they won't do. They can't do it. All they can do is ignore it and act like it doesn't exist. They try and push it off or say, who made them? That's not the issue. Those aliens are the ones that made us, and that's the issue of our formation. Whoever made them, however they came about, is not the point. The point is, how did we come into existence? Extraterrestrials did it. Whoever created them, that's not the God you're going to. The God of the Bible is an extraterrestrial. It is not a spirit thing.